Hey everybody, and welcome back to Griffin, Indiana. It is early spring. We have started year 3 of our gameplay here on Griffin, Indiana, and our 3-day seasons playthrough as we kind of experiment and learn how FS22's seasonal cycles playthrough might work with respect to its fixed 3-day seasonal durations, or basically 1 month per game day. And so far it is coming along quite well. We've got $22,000 in the bank. I've got 3 contracts lined up for today to get some fertilizing done for some neighbor farmers. That should add to our bank account quite well. If you're new to the series, then I suggest maybe going back and checking out the first few episodes at the very least, to get a little bit of a background as to what's going on. But before that, this video is brought to you by Rob Woods. Thank you for being a farm baron. So when Giants announced that in FS22 we would have seasonal cycles, I thought to myself, that has got to be the #1 feature coming to Farm Sim 22. Gotta be. Then Giants announced that there would be production in Farm Sim 22. And I was like, all right, that has got to be the #1 feature in Farm Sim 22. Right? So production, seasonal cycles. It's got to be like that. Then Giants showed the build mode. And I thought, aha. You tried to trick me there, Giants. Not quite. So I put the build mode in at like number 3 as far as features go. And I mentioned this back in a previous Farm Sim 22 news video. So at that point, it was production, seasonal cycles, and build mode in that order as far as top 3 features. And then the other week, right, Giants goes and drops the bomb on us, blows our mind with the announcement that FS22 will support crossplay. What? So all of a sudden, I'm left here rethinking my life's decisions. Is production still #1? Is seasonal cycles still #2? Build mode still #3? Where does this crossplay fall in? Once again, I am left reorganizing my priorities for Farm Sim 22, or what I think is the optimal feature. And I have to say, I think it's crossplay, then production, then seasonal cycles, and then build mode. And that top order 4. Yeah, I think if I were to pick a number 5, it would be the DX12 graphical enhancements, the parallax occlusion, the occlusion culling, and the texture streaming that is all coming to FS22. All of that should greatly increase visual fidelity of the game, as well as increase performance on all platforms, and really be quite exciting to see firsthand. I don't think the videos we've seen to date on parallax occlusion really give it much merit. I mean, it looks nice, but I think it's going to look so much nicer in person when we can see the dimensions, the 3D changing as we actually move around, to see those rocks actually, the shadows change as we move around and such. So I'd be curious what your all's top 5 features in Farm Sim 22. I know there's a ton of new things coming to Farm Sim 22. I was discussing this on a different Discord about a week ago, related to how I thought that Farm Sim 22 was probably the most feature rich as far as changing from the previous version that maybe we have seen in a very long time. We might have to go back to some very, very early iterations of Farm Sim 22, or not Farm Sim, the franchise, to have a similar kind of new feature set for the next iteration. Now, my gameplay experience doesn't go back that far. I go back 2 versions. So I started playing at the start of FS17. And I didn't really realize it was the start of FS17. What really got me hooked was I was seeing some videos about zombies walking the streets on Halloween. Okay, so that was October 31st, 2016. And FS17 had just dropped. And I had no idea. I was seeing some videos of people doing some roleplay, and those roleplay series, quite frankly, they touched home, and reminded me a lot about growing up on a farm and everything. I got drawn in. At the time, I was looking for something else to do other than run iRacing all the time. And if you know anything about iRacing, you know that the races are scheduled. And all the races, for the most part, are against real people. So they're on a schedule. And some of the lower series, they run every hour. But when you start getting up to the other levels of series, they might run every other hour. They might run every 3 hours, every 4 hours. They might run only on specific days of the week. And basically what that means is, you know, if you crash out, if you get wrecked out, whatever, if your race is ruined early, you can't just say, all right, let's just start over like you can with like F1 2020, 2021, 2019, whatever iteration you want to talk there. You can't just start over like a lot of other racing titles where you can just like, well, let's just roll back and pretend that corner didn't exist. Your race is done. You're sitting at the you're sitting in the garage area waiting for next week, basically. So I was looking for something to do to basically occupy my time between races, and Farm Sim 19 or 17 seemed to fit the bill. I got really drawn into 17, and then at some point I just stopped iRacing because I felt it was just too stressful. And that's where I got really drawn into FS17. And then we moved to FS19. And be honest with you, I was not that excited about 19. 19 was an iteration of 17. I didn't think that 19 was FS17 with mods. I wasn't that naive or blind. But there wasn't a lot, in my opinion, changing. It felt like an interim change, and I was fine with it. I don't expect the whole world to be transformed every game version update. I've yet to see a game that is completely unique with every iteration of its game. I mean, oh my god. Let's just talk about Battlefield. How many Battlefield games are there? How many ways can you skin the same cat of just being FPS? First-person shooter, really. You go around and you shoot other people. That is the whole premise of countless games. How do you iterate that? You what? Different guns, different scenery, different locations, right? But, you know, to each their own. I'm not criticizing any one type of game genre at all. So, it felt more interim. Now, as I've learned and understood what really was changing, look at that, 23, we double our money right there. Bang. Go to 11. Let's go top off our spreader. So as I got more into the weeds and heard more from mapping friends and modding friends and such, I discovered that a lot of the FS19 changes were under the hood. Things that you didn't necessarily see as a player. We knew that they changed the textures of tractors and vehicles from I don't know, dare I say, normal textures to something called UDIM, UDIM. And in UDIM mode, basically they have kind of a library of textures included with the game. We're gonna miss our turn. So there's like all of the colors of all the brands are already included with the game files. There's textures for chrome, metal, galvanized steel, rubber, fabric, plastic. All of those textures are kind of canned and built in. And through UDIM, you basically reference those and then build out your model, referencing the textures that are provided with you or for you. And what you get is ultimately all the John Deere tractors have the same John Deere green. Something that we would have in 19 or 17, is you might line up 5 John Deere mods and every single one of them is a different shade of green. Right? Well, there's only one John Deere green, but the mod would have, you could conceivably have, 15 shades of gray. No, 50 shades of John Deere green. Well, the thing that FS19 brought is UDIM, and John Deere green is a color that is basically in the game. And if you're doing a mod of John Deere tractor, you can call John Deere green from the game files, and your tractor will look identical to the base game tractors, which in theory will look identical to every other John Deere tractor and implement mod that's out there. That's great. Gives you some uniformity. Does it change how the game plays? No. A lot changed under the hood with respect to how maps are built. The whole build your own farm really changed a lot under the hood as far as mapping. As a player, do you realize that? No. As a mapper, do you realize that? Oh, heck yeah, you figure that out pretty darn quick when you realize that the way you used to do things isn't the way you do things anymore. Were those changes for the better? I think so. Because we get things like multi-fruit now on console maps. Because in 17, and what I understand, every iteration of Farm Sim for that, oops. There we go. Every iteration of Farm Sim before that, you had to have a custom script in order to do multi-fruit. Or, just add additional crops. Well, in Farm Sim 19, they moved it to basically being in XML. And you just define your multiple crops in XML. You define where your textures are in the XML. They don't need a custom script. And presto, consoles get a feature they've never had before because of the way Giants redid maps. Do you see that as a player? No. Only when magically the first map comes out with multi-fruit for consoles, and everyone on console just goes completely ape shit because of it's a brand new feature that they were never seen before, which is perfectly justifiable. But that's under the hood. The way sell points are defined is completely different in 19. The way lots of things are in maps are completely different than they were in 17. Do us as players realize that? No, we don't pick up on it. We don't know it. Only people that are digging through the files, making maps, editing maps, realize this. So a lot of the things that were changed in 19 were interim changes. They were back-end changes. Things that weren't really super evident to the average player. And that's why I really wasn't super stoked for 19. It was like, okay, it's just a new version coming out. I'll definitely get it. We'll move over to it. We'll be a little bit more judicious with our mods. We'll try to push the whole ethical modding thing, which we did. And then honestly, I got burnt out on mods because, well, at one point it was taking me 4 or 5 hours a weekend to do my weekend mod roundup, and I just didn't have the time anymore to dedicate to that, so I kind of got burned out on mods. But FS22, it has got a lot of features, and I think about the changes that were under the FS19 hood that really weren't evident to players. There's a whole boatload. There we go. I know we're right. Features that are announced for FS22 that I think us as players are going to see right away. So that's got me wondering what else under the hood is there that we don't necessarily realize about until we get it. Until we get the game. How much is mapping changing? How much is modding changing? Some of it is going to be speculative. Some of it is going to be learned on the job, so to speak, once we get the game. And modders can start diving in. I mean, these new maps, they look crazy. They look generational leaps over Ravenport. Generational leaps over Goldcrest Valley. Far more than just, you know, some texture streaming and some parallax occlusion here and there. They look completely like this ain't your granddaddy's map, right? So maybe it's like trying to compare a 1940s car to a 1990s car. It's like there was a lot that happened between those two cars. And that's what it feels like almost between looking at base game map Ravenport, which in its own right wasn't finished, right, to Elm Creek. It's like there's a lot that has happened between these two maps. And I'm really excited about it. Wasn't so excited about 19, like I said. And I'm pretty stoked about 22. Pretty stoked about 22. It's going to take, you know, getting the editor, digging in, mappers, modders, seeing what the differences are. Giants has kind of said that there's a lot of XML similarities between the two. So hopefully we'll see easier conversion of mods coming forward. And what I really, really am hoping is that we don't see the cookie cutter map conversions that we have seen in FS19. And what I mean about cookie cutter map conversions is, and I probably can't find it on this map because this map did such a good job with their buildings and such. But there are maps out there, maps aplenty out there, that have buildings from FS13 or FS15. And dang it, do they show their age. 98%. What? They are showing their age. And why? Why are they still being put in? I mean, the textures look horrible. The textures look absolutely, utterly horrible. Why are they still putting these in the maps? With the graphical improvements that we're getting in FS22, they're going to look awful. They're going to look even worse. So I just hope that these new maps are going to fully embrace the ambient occlusion, the parallax occlusion culling, and texture streaming. I think is probably going to be built in. You can't probably do anything about that other than it happens. But I just really hope that these map makers embrace those new features, because I think without them, their maps are going to stand out, and they're going to stand out not in a good way. I think this is probably the worst building on this map, maybe. I don't know where this building came from. I don't think it's in Ravenport or Felsburn. Seems to have a different, maybe a little different shader to it, because it's a little bit darker than all the other buildings. So maybe it came from 17. But the same way that building kind of stands out among the other buildings around it, I think buildings that are from older versions of Farm Sim are going to significantly stand out as sore thumbs in FS22. So let me hear what your all's thoughts are on all of this. What your thoughts are related to Farm Sim 22, and how iterative, I can't say it, between that and 19. If you had experience in 17, let me know what you think about it and how it was maybe more iterative 19 to 17 and everything. And until next time, happy farming.